Somebody was trying to buy a home. They were competing against a cash offer from a PE firm. The client took a lower cash offer because it's basically a guaranteed closing rather than take a higher offer from somebody getting financing. And they turned around and rented the home from the group they were competing with to buy it.
Yikes.
Wow.
Yeah. If you could wave a magic wand and delete any trend in real estate right now, what would it be?
The arguing and bickering that's going on at these large corporate levels. I'm so sick of it. Every day, Compass and Zillow and Homes.com and all this stuff going on. I get it, but like agents are suffering right now. And they see these headlines every day. And it's frustrating to me because, hey, it's hard enough out there. I'd rather not wake up and see that my company just sued Zillow. Well, the other side of it too, and I said this at Housing Wire on stage, there's a lot of Compass agents. And by the way, it sounds like I'm against Compass here. I really like Robert Revkin, and he's got his right-hand guy who I consider a very good friend of mine. His name's Mark McLaughlin. They're awesome. They're bright. I mean, what they've done in the past 3 years is nothing short of phenomenal. I mean, they're a monster. What I'm saying is I'm sick of the fighting. Between what happened with NAR last year, now all these, like every day, there's just bickering going on. And it's hard for me to accept that because while you're doing all this, your boots on the ground, the people that really matter, your agents, the agents for Zillow, the agents for Compass, the agents that are subscribers to Homes.com, the agents for National Association of Realtors, I feel like they're getting slapped in the face a lot. Meaning, hey, can you just help me close more deals? How about instead of spending all this money in litigation, we pour it into resources and opportunity for us to do better as agents? It's really hard out there right now. And it's one thing when in good times you see stuff going on and you're like, I don't care, I'm closing a ton of deals. But for most agents out there, it's incredibly difficult. And it's kind of just like pouring salt on an open wound, in my opinion. Now, there's nothing I can do about it. And I think there's value in what some of these, because when I look at these lawsuits, well, I see both sides. There's not one thing going on where I 100% agree with them or I 100% agree with them. And you know why? Because I don't have a dog in the fight. I'm not biased to that. I look at things from a common sense perspective. Like where I was getting frustrated with all this Wall Street buying is that home will never be reintroduced to the market, which means that home can't get refied 6-7 times. Which means that home will never be listed, which is why I said, look, Zillow and these groups got to get at Wall Street for buying all these single family homes, because it's actually destroying your portfolio value of your organization, because that home will never be introduced to the market again, because they're going to keep that home and rent it out forever. That asset of being pulled from the market forever certainly doesn't help anybody.
Yeah.
It doesn't help Rocket. It doesn't help Veterans United. It doesn't help Zillow. It doesn't help Homes.com, because that home the minute Wall Street buys that house and rents it out, that home may as well never exist again.
Yeah.
Millions of homes across America will never be reintroduced to the market again.
That's no good.
It's not good. But that really hinders the value, it really hinders the value of these organizations simply by default of having large private equity firms scoop up housing across America. I had made this statement for years.
Yeah.
Money talks, but at some point that also hinders the ability for home ownership for people, because that home will never be introduced to the market again. Now, I got in a fight. I don't call it a fight. I got in an argument in Forbes with somebody that took a really, in my opinion, stupid position on what I was saying, because they argued to me that Wall Street only owned like 3.7% of all houses in America, or was in that range. And I said, wait a minute, that's ignorant. And that's ignorant because you're saying all houses. Wall Street doesn't buy all houses. They buy a subset of homes. And those homes that they buy range from 1,000 square feet to 2,400 square feet, 3-bedroom, 4-bath, small lot. It is your typical first-time home buyer property. Mm-hmm. So let's look at that sector and how many homes they own, because that's what's hurting Americans, is that sector of home ownership. People that need to create wealth through real estate. And that is one of the only ways to create wealth right now, because people are check to check. Yeah. Buy a house, pay it down in 15 years, have it appreciate 30% over those 15 years, 100% over those 15 years. Now you're sitting on your nest egg. Now you can send your kids to college. That's the American dream. The more of those homes that are not available, the less opportunity. You know how many stories I've heard? This is freaking crazy. Somebody was trying to buy a home. They were competing against a cash offer from a PE firm. The client took a lower cash offer because it's basically a guaranteed closing, rather than take a higher offer from somebody getting financing, and they turned around and rented the home from the group they were competing with to buy it.
Yikes.
Wow.
Yeah.
How much does that suck?
Yeah, that
All of a
sucks a
sudden
lot.
now, over the past 3 years, that home goes up 25% in value. You could have made $100,000 in equity, yet you threw away your money in rent because you
Yeah.
couldn't compete. That's crazy.
I don't like that. I don't like that one bit.
So my argument to him was, show me the numbers with those type of houses.
Yeah, for real. What do you think it is?
I don't know what it is. I know that
20.
I know at some point in Texas, 1 out of 5 homes were bought by PE.
Yeah, yikes.
That's insane.
Yeah.
So,
What about now? Is the trend still in that direction?
well,
Are they
no,
still
it's really slowed down because rates have gone up. So it's harder to pencil. But these homes are still being held because they're sitting there when they borrowed their money at 2.5%, 3.5%. Rents have seemingly gone up. They've been steady over the past couple of years, but they will start to uptick again. And the appreciation of the home, there's no way they could trade that asset and create the return that they're currently getting on those houses. They'll never sell those houses, ever. Because the return is so great now. If you're making 17, 19, 22% on that asset, why would you ever sell it? And if you ever need to free up capital, you can refi your asset. So it's a shame because so many homes that could have been unlocked won't be. But this is a problem for these companies out there because the real asset is the house itself. And I read these suits and a lot of them do make sense if you're on their side. Like if Mauricio Ormansky just refiled his suit today. He had his private listing network, and I applauded what he did. Actually, I really did. But now he's throwing his hat in the ring because he has a basis for doing so. These companies all have basis in doing what they're doing. They're trying to protect their shareholders. That's fair. But it gets quite political to me when you can take an approach to say things where even you know that's a stretch. It's like, take the big, beautiful bill. And I'm not going to get super political on there because there's things in there that I like and there's things in there I don't like. But one thing in there that should be undisputed, unequivocal, no questions asked, none, zero. So now I'm going to get the left to hate me here. So now I just have nobody. I need to go independent. Cutting Medicaid for non-U.S. citizens that don't pay taxes.
Yeah.
That's undisputed. There's nobody with a straight face that should tell me, because I think there's like 1.3 million people or something is what I read, that if you don't pay taxes and you live in this country, why should you get government subsidy? That's just not just with Medicaid. I'm talking in any sector. That's freaking crazy to me.
Yeah.
And if you take it to the most micro level of, if you belong to a gym, right? Mm-hmm. And you're paying your dues, would you allow people that don't pay dues to use your workout equipment? Probably not.
Yeah.
If you live in an HOA and you go to an HOA meeting and you know that somebody hasn't paid their HOA in 2 years and they're trying to tell you not to paint your house purple,
They don't even live in the neighborhood,
who are you?
Yeah.
You don't even pay your dues.
Yeah.
Paying dues is part of belonging to the club. Mm-hmm. The club is the United States of America. If you want what the club provides you, you need to pay your fair share. Mm-hmm. So there's no way anybody with a straight face could ever tell me, and they do, they lie. They say no, and they make up excuses for it. There's no excuse that somebody should be able to get money from somebody else if they're not paying their full share. I saw one of the greatest Ronald Reagan videos yesterday, and I never saw it before. This is what he says. He said that he was meeting, this is in the 80s, he was meeting with two of his Democratic it was a Democratic couple, a liberal couple. They were with their daughter. And Reagan said, "What would you like to be when you grow up?" to the girl. And the girl said, I want to become president of the United States. And Reagan said, "What was the first thing you would do if you were president of the United States?" And she said, "I would help out all the homeless people and give food to all the people that needed food." And he said, "That's a noble cause." And he said, well, I'll tell you what. Why don't you do this? Why don't you come to my home after this? You can cut my yard. You can pull my weeds. And you can blow off my driveway. And I'll give you $50. And then you can take that $50 and you can give it to the homeless man down the street. How does that sound? And she said, I think I'd just rather have the homeless man do the work. And he said, welcome to the Republican Party. The point is,
that's good.
The point is, we give so many handouts and people are taking advantage of these systems. It's got to stop.
Yeah.
It has to stop.
If we want a country.
If we want a country.
That's the thing. The other side
now,
doesn't even want a country.
If you're working and you're going on a hardship, you deserve help.
Yeah, 100%.
You deserve help.
Like a social safety net is huge.
But for those that get lazy, for those that don't contribute, for those that don't pay taxes, you can't tell me with a straight face that it's okay, that we're going to take care of you forever because you've just decided that you want to put no effort into the game.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, I don't agree with that. And I never will.
Yeah. I hate that it's all compacted into this one big bill that has to be voted yes or no. It's like, dude,
I do
what
too.
are we doing?
I do too.
You know?
But that's their way to get things through.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
It was like when we did,
Slimy.
well, it was like when we did the
COVID relief, maybe?
no, it was the immigration bill, the initial immigration bill.
Yeah.
They threw hundreds of billions of dollars to these sanctuary cities as part of the package to provide more border security. And I'm sitting there going like, well, why don't we just have a bill about border security?
Yeah.
Why do we throw in? But again, I'm not, I'm not in politics, so clearly they do it for a reason. But my whole point is, like, I could never, ever, ever agree with somebody that says all these people should deserve a free ride. It's crazy. Like when you go to church, every time I'm at church, I give $50 to the thing because I'm using your church to try and better my life and to try to say, God, thank you for the blessings I have. Thank you for this beautiful church. Thank you for the priest. Thank you for the congregation. Here's what I do every week, right? Now, some people might give $5, some might give $10, some might give $100. I don't know. That's what I give. I'd feel pretty guilty if I went to that church every single Sunday and I didn't give $1.
Mm-hmm.
We all can afford different, but whether it's $1, $5, $10, or $50,
Something.
you got to do something.
Yeah. And if it's not money, it could be time or volunteering or stuff like that.
There you go. But you got to give something.
But just me, take.
And that's what it's become, is a country of handouts.
Yeah.
And it's crazy.
Yeah. We're living in wild times, man.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy. So